Hey, welcome back to the Real Wealth Solutions podcast. We are here with another quick hit, wearing the same shirts that we wore in the last quick hit. We want to talk about getting your LOI rejected. And then what do you do from that point on, assuming you're still interested in the property? So this is something that we're kind of experiencing right now, so it's front of mind. So we thought we'd kind of play through uh, that whole process of putting in an order, getting rejected, putting in an offer, getting rejected, and then what happens next. So uh, we'll let's frame it up into the property without giving out too much information, Darren. So yeah, we went on some tours a few weeks ago. Um, Toured a property that we really liked. Um, had some pretty decent information, financials. We were able to tour multiple units. Had some pretty. It's a fairly new market for us, so our market knowledge on the expense side isn't as sharp as we would like it to be, but we're pretty comfortable with our assumptions for underwriting purposes. Same with debt. We engaged some soft quotes to kind of box in where we think the debt would land. And this was actually a property with a listed price and no call to offers. So it was just kind of for sale. So talked about it, like, hey, let's put in an offer. So we put in an offer. Apparently there were 5 or 6 offers that all came in at the same time. Every single one of them was rejected, well, obviously including ours. And the broker came back with basically a strike price. And with that strike price, we're like, okay, we know we can come up. So first of all, when you put in an LOI, you don't do it at your strike price. You do it somewhere below, so you have some room to go up. Sometimes it works that you put in an offer and it's kind of a low anchor type strategy, and they might do a counter that is below your strike price, and you're like, well, we're gold. We don't even have to worry about our strike price anymore. So in this case, yeah, all offers were rejected outright. They set a strike price, and then what do we do? So this is what we did. So being a fairly new market, we did have a relationship, or we do have a relationship with a property manager from a previous complex that we owned. Called them up directly, had a couple conversations specifically about, we like to do expenses as a dollar per unit per year instead of a percentage. In this case, it just so happened that they were going out to this market and we're going to be able to drive it. So in the initial conversation, we found out that our underwriting was pretty much right on of what they would estimate it to be. They did go out and drive it, and then talk to them again, and they said, actually, we're comfortable that your underwriting can come down to this level. So we're in the process of sharpening our pencils, and that's really what you need to do, and that's re-engaging with the property manager, possibly getting a full budget if you've got enough time to do it. You may not have all the financial information available for them to do a full-on budget, but you could probably get a little bit closer than it's going to be about $4,000 a unit per year. So yeah, re-engage with property management for getting a more specific number on the expenses, and re-engaging on lending, because especially now things are moving pretty quickly. There's a lot of variation. So in this case, which is kind of a side note, is we realized that some of the lenders that we were talking to were also apparently our competitors, and were looking at the property themselves to buy. So I kind of switched gears and approached some lenders from out of the area to try and get a little more separation. We don't want to show all of our cards to the people that are potentially lending us the money. So in any case, there was a little bit of movement down in lending, so we sharpened our pencils again on that and came up with a new offer price. That's kind of where we're at now. Darren, you got anything to
Well, I was just going to
add?
say to your point about lending, because of the situation we're in with COVID now, it is changing almost every day, but every week for sure. Numbers can go up and down, rates, whatever. And because of that, it is crucial that you do re-engage. And when we go through what we call the sharpening your pencil exercise, we can learn that there is something new, more information from this lender or lenders that we're talking to that are to our advantage on paper and will help us bring our number up. And another thing I want to mention is that, and you mentioned the property management company. We actually owned a property in another market, and that's how we have the relationship with them. And so we knew they were coming there, and that's why we reached out. But also, since there was no call to offers, but there was a list price, it's similar to the 52 unit that we closed in February in Knoxville, where we knew what the seller wanted, and but we went in, our first LOI was like, well below, not well below, but probably 300 or 400
It's within
grand.
10%.
Within 10%, correct. So, and we put in a second LOI, and then we didn't even put a full price offer LOI in until the third offer. But each time there was something we learned, whether it was a comp, whether it was more about the units themselves. When we weren't fudging numbers, we weren't trying to make the numbers look good or make them work on paper, but not really work. There's just things that we kept missing, and we realized, like, yeah, that price, this is a good deal. And so,
Yeah, in that particular case, the seller was really holding information close to their chest. So
correct.
we would put in an offer, and they would say, "No, that's not going to do it." And we're like, "Well, we need more verification of what this property is actually doing." So we'd get a little bit more fed to us, and we were like, "Okay, we're getting more justification on on that. What he's asking is a fair, actually was a fair price. The
Right.
deal's working out very well right now, and
And this
we
was
paid him what he wanted."
right. And this was a deal that was not on the market. It was brought direct to us by a broker, and it took us 8 months to close. So sometimes you have to have that patience and that continued relationship with that broker and hopefully the seller to know that you're in it for the long game. You're going to keep sharpening your pencils, whatever the case may be. And if it takes that long to get a sweet deal, then it takes that long, because we're in this for the long haul. So 8 months for a 5 to 7 year hold or indefinite is nothing in the grand scheme of time.
Yeah. So like back to this one that is, it's marketed, so it's getting a lot of attention.
Correct.
Some other things that we're doing is, we might make our offer a little bit sweeter by, in this environment, I'm still not willing to put hard money down.
Me neither.
Without some kind of financing contingency, but we could shorten up the due diligence period, by 15 days or something like that, or maybe just offer up more earnest money, even though we would be protected with some contingencies. The other thing is, what was I going to say?
Financing contingency.
Yeah, the financing contingency is still in there, considering this market, especially, this being the 9th of July, and with COVID doing its thing, who knows what's going to happen with the economy. So we're still protecting ourselves a lot.
One thing we ran into that previous deal that I just mentioned was, we threw out the option of owner financing when the gentleman realized he was going to get hit with big, heavy taxes for the sale. So that's just another strategy that sometimes you can use, try to communicate with brokers.
Yeah, great point. I mean, you can, sometimes you can pay what the people want if you get the financing that justifies it.
Correct.
So you may find like, hey, yeah, we can give you this, but here's what the financing is going to look like, and it would probably be like an owner carryback of some kind. Um, and then the other thing is just being very active with the broker. Where the deal that we're talking about right now is we re-engaged at a new price, and it happened that this week sounds like they were negotiating the PSA, but it wasn't under contract yet. So there was like a kind of a small window to engage them before they inked paper and officially went under contract with somebody. Unfortunately, we've kind of been ghosted by the broker at this point, so we think they're in negotiation and are looking to go under contract. But what we're going to continue to do is send that broker text. In this case, it's a very text-centric broker, doesn't return emails either very well. So we're just going to stay front of mind, because this particular property we looked at originally a couple months ago or something. It went under contract, came out of contract. That's when we actually went and toured it, got our LOIs rejected, and now we're either looking to put in a contingent offer or just make sure we pay attention over the next couple of weeks to 30 days. Because if it goes under contract, the typical due diligence period might be 30 days. So it's going to be in our calendar to reach out pretty much every week. And it's especially as that 30-day clock kind of comes around, because if it looks like it's going to start to fall out, that broker's going to be reaching out to whoever they think is really serious about it.
Correct.
And if you've been peppering them and, they kind of know what your number is, you can be front of mind for them. So, the point is if your LOI is rejected, that's not the end.
Yeah.
That's
agreed. It's either a contingent offer in this case and or front of mind. You always want to be front of mind regardless. And every deal is different. Every situation is different. But yeah, stay engaged. Like you said, it's not just close your computer and move on to the next one.
And for me, it comes back to this little stupid thing that I hate sometimes, but I really like other times, is you get off the phone, you had your conversation, make some notes, immediately put it in your calendar to re-engage them,
to reach out
a week from now. So like,
that's great too.
Monday morning I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to call that lady about that thing in an unnamed market in Tennessee that we're looking at. So that's really about it. Yeah, just sharpen your pencils, talk to your property manager about more specific expenses. I guess I would add the property tax side of it as a specific expense. If you haven't looked at that very hard, now's the time to do it, to make sure you've got that variable right. And then re-engaging with lending. Because, like you mentioned, Darren, I had made some assumptions based upon all these reserves that were being required. And from that first underwriting to when we were trying to re-engage them with a new offer, those rules have changed. And I could now...
They loosened.
They loosened. I was able to remove, whatever it was, a couple $100,000 from what we have to bring to the table. So, that moves the needle a little bit.
Absolutely.
That's about it. Just stick with it. It's not over till it's over. It's not sold till it's sold. So,
sure. Good tip.
All right. There you go. A little quick hit about the rejected LOI and what you should do next, assuming you're still interested. So, all right. We thank you all again. Real Wealth Solutions Podcast signing off. We will see you on the next one.
Take care.
Later.